My phone buzzed at 11:50 p.m., yanking me from the sofa's half-dream. I fumbled for the cold coffee, its metallic sting still clinging to my tongue. Through the living room window, the Velvet Cafe's neon sign glowed on the wet pavement. My pulse fluttered into a drumbeat as I unlocked the screen, a DatingLife notification from Alex Wood NYC. Meet me at the Velvet in 10. My heart seized. I bolted upright, sending the coffee mug skittering in a spray of dark liquid. The burner hissed in the kitchen, half forgotten, as traffic's low hum drifted through the open window. My knees buckled for a moment. This was wrong, so wrong. Sarah would never be at the Velvet at midnight unless. Stay calm. Breathe. I dropped the phone into my pocket, heedless of the screen's glow, and leapt into my shoes. The click of the front door echoed behind me like a pistol shot. Outside, the cool November air bit at my cheeks. Asphalt reflected neon in puddles from an earlier drizzle. My breath pounded in my ears as I jogged 2 blocks, shoes slapping the sidewalk in a frantic rhythm. What if I'm too late? The cafe's entrance loomed ahead. I peered through the rain-speckled window and saw her, Sarah, laughing, head thrown back, her coat slipping off one shoulder. Alex Wood sat opposite, his hand casually brushing hers. My stomach turned to ice. I swallowed, feeling the torch of betrayal flicker into a blaze. The scent of her perfume, light jasmine, hit me before I pushed open the door. It clashed with the cafe's aroma of espresso and cinnamon. Alex's jacket hung on the back of a chair, damp from the drizzle. Sarah's eyes caught mine for a flicker, pleasure, surprise, guilt. I couldn't tell. My pulse hammered louder than the espresso machine's hiss. I forced my jaw to unclench and strode forward, each footstep measured yet furious. Sarah rose, lips parted, as Alex's hand retreated. I lifted my wrist, the golden face of my grandfather's watch glowed under the cafe lights, 11:56 p.m. The second hand ticked with purpose. My world just ended. I reached the table and laid down my phone, face up, showing the message. Sarah's face paled, Alex straightened, eyes widening. The cafe's chatter seemed to fade into the background, replaced by the pounding of my heart. What the hell is this? My voice was tight, controlled, an attempt to steady the tremor I felt inside. Sarah's breath caught. Michael, Save it. I cut her off, voice icy. Midnight at the Velvet. I lifted my phone. And these messages, I can't stop thinking about you, from Alex Wood NYC at 11:32. Care to explain? Her eyes filled with tears. It's not what you think. Alex stood, hands up. Michael, I can. Shut up. The single word struck like a gavel. You knew she was married, and she knew I'd find out eventually. I saw no shame in his eyes, only guilt. Traffic thundered past the window, but I could only hear my breath and the second hand ticking on my grandfather's watch. I felt the familiar warmth of that watch on my wrist, its steady rhythm reminding me I was alive, still alive, despite the moment I thought my heart would stop. Sarah's voice cracked. I needed someone to talk to. Alex understood me. At midnight. In a cafe. With my children at home wondering why their mother didn't tuck them in. My fury flared, yet my voice remained even. You've been exchanging messages for weeks, planning these strolls and evening movies. I found 2 Cinemax tickets in your purse from last Thursday, when you said you were home helping Grace with homework. Her shoulders trembled. Alex glanced away, shame settling into his posture. The cafe's barista stared, eyebrows raised. I swallowed, tasting bitter regret. I went easy on you when I saw your phone's summary, $30 at Cinemax, $45 at Cafe Riviera. I believed your excuses. Tonight's proof changed everything. I pressed my grandfather's watch, focusing on its tick, tick, tick. You believed our marriage would survive a coma, that I'd never wake up. Guess what? I woke up. The cafe's lights seemed to dim as I rose. I picked up the watch, holding its face a moment. Each beat echoed in my chest. I turned toward the window where the neon sign still flickered, an unintentional spotlight on my devastation. Grace, Ethan, our kids, deserve better. I'm done believing your half-truths. I stepped back, turning on my heel and exiting into the night. The door's chime rang behind me as I walked away, the cafe's neon glow fading in my rear view. My grandfather's watch ticked, each second a promise that I would not let this betrayal define me. I would reclaim my life, no matter how hard it burned. I woke the next morning to the dull ache of bruised ribs and the relentless hum of traffic outside our Upper West Side apartment. My grandfather's watch lay warm against my wrist, its second hand ticking insistently. The metallic tang of last night's coffee lingered in my mouth, and the kitchen smelled faintly of pine from Sarah's scented candle, an aroma that once felt comforting, now nauseating. Grace padded into the kitchen in her pink pajamas, clutching her stuffed unicorn. "Daddy, where's Mommy?" she asked, yawning. Her hair was a nest of soft curls, and her small face scrunched in confusion. I forced a calm breath, leaning against the island. "Mommy had to run errands, sweetie. She'll be back soon." Her lip quivered. Why didn't she tuck me in? My chest tightened. I knelt and smoothed her hair, ignoring how her question echoed every doubt swirling in my mind. She must have forgotten. "Let's get you some cereal." I guided her to the stove, the sizzle of the burner sounding too loud in the quiet morning. As Grace poured Cheerios into her bowl, the memory of last Sunday's breakfast flashed in my mind, the smell of sizzling bacon, Sarah's laughter as Ethan recited his football playbook before polishing off 3 pancakes. It was a scene bathed in sunlight, warm, perfect. Today, the kitchen felt empty, the only warmth from the single streak of sunlight hitting the countertop. I watched Grace's cereal swirl in the milk, her focus absolute. A pang of guilt shot through me. I'd almost believed Sarah's late homework help tonight chalked her absences up to stress. Now, each memory felt like a mask hiding secrets. Her laughter once soared around this room, now it felt like a lie. Once Grace scampered off to play, I sank onto the couch with my grandfather's watch glinting in my palm. I twisted the band, its familiar weight grounding me. My mind drifted to 6 nights ago when I peeked at Sarah's purse to grab our car keys. A receipt from Cinemax fluttered out, 2 tickets for 10:15 p.m. Beauty and the Beast. Mom said she'd take Grace, I remembered thinking. But Grace had been home with a sleepover at her friend's. I'd swallowed that lie without question. The click of Sarah's bedroom door snapped me back. She emerged, hair loosely pinned, eyes rimmed with sleep. She kissed my cheek and murmured, "Morning, hon, coffee." Her voice sounded too bright. My pulse tightened. "Coffee sounds great. How was your night?" I forced a neutral tone. She paused, glancing at my watch. "Busy meeting at work, stayed later than expected." I nodded, eyes flicking to the Cinemax stub I'd tucked under her keys yesterday. "Right. Must have been exhausting." She smiled, brushing past me. The floral scent of her perfume washed over me, jasmine mingled with something muskier, unfamiliar. I traced the perfume's trail, mind swirling. Was that Alex's cologne? Or just my imagination? Leaving her to make tea, I rose and wandered into the hall. My gaze landed on the framed photo of our family 3 showers ago, Sarah, Ethan, Grace, and me on the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset. Their smiles felt brittle now. I traced the outline of Sarah's face with my fingertip through the glass, remembering how gentle her "I love you" felt that evening. Later, her "I need some space" had stung like acid. Downstairs, I found the mail still unopened. I dug through bills until I found a small envelope with no return address, just Michael Robinson. Inside, a faintly smeared florist's card, "Hope this brightens your day. Love, A." No indication of which florist. I tucked it into my pocket and drove to work, mind spinning. At the office, I tried to focus on code reviews and meeting notes, but every line of JavaScript blurred into memories of Sarah's movie nights with a friend. The low buzz of cubicle chatter felt oppressive, like gossip underwater. I excused myself to the restroom, splashing cold water on my face, tasting chlorine that felt as sharp as doubt. My phone buzzed, another DatingLife notification. "Alex, coffee at 11. I stared at the screen, chest tightening. My instincts screamed, check her messages. Find proof. But I forced myself to wait. I opened the office window, figs, honeysuckle, city dust mixing in the breeze, and inhaled, letting the scent anchor me. At noon, I returned to our apartment under the guise of lunch with a client. The hallway's dim light felt heavy as I reached for the doorknob. Inside, The apartment smelled of old toast and lukewarm tea. Ethan's playbook lay on the table, a testament to his Saturday practice. I picked it up, tracing the coffee stains on the corner, memories of our Saturday morning routine, bacon, pancakes, family football drills in the park. That routine felt shattered now by Sarah's hidden nights. I heard the distinct chime of my phone from the living room, another DatingLife alert. This time, a message preview: I can't wait to see you later. You're my escape. My breath hitched. I rummaged through the pile of unopened mail again, phone bills, a Cinemax receipt, and, hidden underneath, a coffee shop charge at Café Riviera dated last Thursday at 11:30 p.m. She'd said she was home helping Grace with her project. I sank onto the couch, watch ticking on my wrist like a heartbeat I could control. Each tick demanded, act. Find the truth. Protect the kids. Rage coiled inside me, but I constricted it, morphing it into resolve. I opened my laptop and drafted a quick email to Carla: need help. Might have to subpoena Sarah's phone records, get a PI. I hesitated, thumb over send, then let the email fly. Grace appeared at the doorway, clutching her doll's arm. Daddy, can we read together? Her innocence felt sacrosanct. I rose and held out my hand. Of course, sweetheart. As we settled on the couch, I opened Ethan's playbook and began reading the summary of his latest game. Each word felt like armor, not against Sarah's betrayal, but against the guilt of not seeing sooner. Grace pressed the unicorn to my chest, trusting me completely. I closed the playbook and looked at my watch, 12:27 p.m. The second hand ticked on, reminding me every moment counted. I pressed my palm against the glass of the family portrait on the mantel, Sarah's face radiant, Ethan's grin infectious, Grace's eyes sparkling at a summer carnival. That image would never lie again. Tomorrow, I thought, I'll begin unraveling every lie. I rose and took Grace's hand, carrying her to her room. As I tucked her in, I whispered, Daddy will fix everything, promise. Her sleepy grin anchored me. I slipped the watch beneath my sleeve and pressed my lips to her forehead. Back in the living room, I flipped the Cinemax stub face down on the coffee table. The afternoon sun painted the linoleum with golden strips. I took a steady breath, nostalgia and dread swirling in my chest, resolute that every memory, no matter how bitter, would fuel my path to the truth. And as the watch ticked on, I knew I would not be the man who let deception destroy us. I would protect my family, even if it meant dismantling the life I'd thought we built together. The click of my grandfather's watch echoed in my mind as I rolled into Carla's law office at 9:15 a.m. The reception area smelled faintly of polished oak and brewed coffee, a comforting normalcy amid the chaos I'd uncovered. Carla, my sister and trusted attorney, looked up from her desk, her eyes already lined with concern. Michael, you look exhausted, she said, pushing a stack of legal pads closer. I nodded, dropping the private investigator's folder on her desk. The glossy photographs and printed transcripts spilled onto the polished surface. Sarah and Alex at Café Riviera, timestamped at 11:15 p.m., heads close under dim lamplight, tickets to the midnight screening at Cinemax, dated last Thursday, text messages detailing their longing. I straightened and let the evidence speak first. Here's everything, from mid-September to now, she's been meeting him, evening strolls, coffee catch-ups, and late-night movies. My voice felt calm but firm, each word measured like a careful breath. They started on DatingLife. I thought it was just chatter about favorite films. But these texts, she calls him her escape. Carla slid the printouts across the desk. Photos at Café Riviera, 2 lattes on the table, yours untouched. Then the cinema shots. This is incontrovertible. I allowed a fraction of grief to surface. They thought the kids were asleep, I said, voice raw. Last Friday, she left Grace's stuffed unicorn on her pillow and said she was taking a walk. But she went to Cinemax with him. Ethan saw her slip out. Carla exhaled. We need to move quickly. First, file for temporary custody. In that petition, we'll cite abandonment and emotional infidelity. Next, we'll subpoena her phone records, DatingLife logs, SMS logs, app metadata. Also, pull the Cinemax ticket scans tied to her credit card. She scribbled bullet points: 1. Custody petition, 2. Subpoena phone/app records, 3. Subpoena Cinemax logs, 4. Restaurant and cafe video footage requests. I watched her write, the sound of pen on paper oddly soothing. I also want a financial injunction, I said. She's been paying Alex's monthly transit pass, $120 a month, charged to our joint account. And there's a $15 charge at Cafe Riviera every Tuesday and Thursday. Carla nodded, adding, 5, file for financial injunction, 6, hire a forensic accountant. Outside Carla's office, I texted Ethan's school counselor to schedule an emergency meeting for him and Grace. Their lives would fracture further once I confronted Sarah. My children needed support in advance. Back home, the apartment seemed sterile in the midday light. I could almost hear whispers in the emptiness. The family portrait on the mantel, Sarah's bright smile, Ethan's grin, Grace's curious eyes, no longer anchored me to warmth. Instead, its glass reflected my weary face. I turned it face down. The watch's tick felt like a heartbeat in my chest, unrelenting, unyielding. 1. Securing evidence. I opened the PI's email folder again and organized each piece under Exhibit A, Exhibit B, and so on. Exhibit A, photo series from Cafe Riviera, dated October 12, 11:15 p.m. Exhibit B, Cinemax tickets, October 8, 10 p.m. Exhibit C, DatingLife chat logs, screenshots, from late September onward. I saved each file to an encrypted flash drive. Next, I logged into our joint bank account online. I highlighted every transaction connected to Alex Wood. Cafe Riviera charges, $15, every Tuesday and Thursday, Cinemax ticket stubs, $30, October 8th, Transit Authority pass payments, $120 monthly. I printed the bank statements and labeled them Exhibit D. I called Cafe Riviera and Cinemax management. Under the guise of a private matter, I requested their security footage from October 12th and 8th. The clerk on the phone hesitated, then gave me a case number for video retrieval. I noted it in my legal pad, case CVR 1024, Cinemax 1008. As dusk fell, I laid out the evidence on the kitchen table. The PI's photos and text transcripts lay alongside the restaurant and movie receipts. The summation looked staggering, 6 weeks of deception under my roof. My grandfather's watch ticked 7:43 p.m. I pressed my palm to its face, drawing calm. Emotion threatened to flood me, but I replaced it with purpose. 2. Consulting allies and securing support. That evening, I drove to Carla's house for a late dinner, grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, comfort fare. Ethan and Grace attended soccer practice with a teammate's parent, giving us room to talk. Carla spread the evidence across her dining table. By Tuesday, we'll file everything, she said, nodding. I've scheduled a meeting with the guardian ad litem to advocate for the kids. And I reached out to the state attorney general's office. They might pursue a confidentiality violation against Alex if he's employed in a position of trust. She paused and studied me. Michael, remember, anger is natural, but let's channel it. We'll control the narrative. Show the world you're the stable parent. Document every step. I drew a slow breath. I want to expose them, but protect Ethan and Grace from the fallout. Carla nodded, her expression softening. We'll arrange counseling for them, trauma-informed therapy. They need coping skills. You also need a safe space, someone to talk to. I swallowed. Dr. Patel at Bellevue, he's available Wednesday. I jotted, appointment, Dr. Patel, November 5th, 4 p.m., in my watch's calendar. The second hand clicked once, as if affirming the plan. 3. Psychological tactics and personal boundaries. Back home, I faced the empty kitchen. I breathed in the scent of last night's pasta, cold and congealed. I left a note on the refrigerator, went out for a walk. Back soon. Beneath it, I taped a printout of a newspaper article detailing the ethical laundry of a dating life scandal, enough to give me leverage if Sarah or Alex tried to spin their version. I set up discreet recording on my phone, audio only, in a small digital voice recorder nested in the living room. If Sarah tried to argue she never meant harm, I would have her words. Evidence strengthened by her own admissions. Then I texted Sarah from my phone, need to talk. 8 p.m. living room. Kids will be there. I watched her seen status linger for minutes before she replied, okay. I'll be there. I saved the conversation as Exhibit E. I bent to pick up Grace's stuffed unicorn from the couch, a tool for her bedtime. As I held it, I imagined Sarah's half-whispered apologies, no replacement for the betrayal. I sighed and wrapped the unicorn in a clean blanket, tucking it back beside Grace's pillow. My daughter needed every ounce of comfort. 4. Family wholeness versus public exposure. Late that night, as the city's distant sirens lulled our block into a restless hush, I compiled a spreadsheet, columns for evidence type, date, witness, and next step. Rows, PI photos, cafe, cinema, bank statements, cafe, Cinemax, transit pass, phone logs, video footage requests. Each entry anchored me to clarity, facts over raw emotion. My mind drifted to Tuesday's custody hearing. I saw myself standing before a judge in a sterile courtroom, its walls the same shade of institutional gray as my hospital bed had been. I would present the evidence with quiet authority. I would shield the kids from Sarah's spin. I pictured Ethan's gecko t-shirt and Grace's unicorn blanket being my silent witnesses. As midnight approached and I set the watch aside on the nightstand, I felt fatigue and resolve blend into one. Though my heart still ached from betrayal, I had constructed a blueprint for justice. And beneath my calm exterior, a controlled determination burned. I would protect Ethan and Grace, secure our future, and ensure Sarah and Alex faced every consequence of their deception. Finally, I closed my eyes, letting the watch's last tick echo in my mind. Tomorrow, I would file the documents. Tomorrow, I would confront Sarah with unassailable proof. Tonight, I would sleep, however briefly, knowing I had taken the first measured steps toward reclaiming my life. Dusk settled over our Upper West Side brownstone, casting long shadows through the living room blinds. My heartbeat synchronized with the steady tick of my grandfather's watch as I wheeled in, evidence folder balanced on my lap. Ethan hovered near the doorway, eyes wide, Grace clinging to his pant leg. They sensed the storm about to break. I inhaled, tasting the familiar sting of last night's cold coffee on my tongue, a bitter reminder of Sarah's betrayal. Sarah sat on the couch, a half-empty glass of red wine in her hand, her eyes fixed on a long simmering fuse of guilt and defiance. Alex perched on the armrest, jeans stained with coffee grounds from Café Riviera, guilt etched in his slump. At my entrance, their whispered conversation cut off. The living room's hush pressed into me as I set the folder on the coffee table with deliberate calm. Sarah, Alex, I began, voice steady like the watch's tick. Thank you for coming. Sarah's eyes darted to the folder, then to my face. Michael. I raised a hand. Wait. My gaze shifted to Alex. Sit down. He did, eyes cast downward. I opened the folder to Exhibit A, photographs of Sarah and Alex at Café Riviera, time-stamped October 12, 11:15 p.m. I laid them out, one by one, her head resting on his shoulder, his hand caressing her wrist, both oblivious to the world. These were taken just 2 Saturdays ago, I said, voice measured. Exhibit B, Cinemax tickets from last Thursday, 2/4, silver lining, dated 10 p.m. You claimed you were home helping Grace with her homework. I let that point hang as Sarah's cheeks paled. Alex's eyes flicked upward, but he didn't speak. I bent to the kids. Ethan hovered at the threshold, confusion in his gaze. Grace stood beside him, her stuffed unicorn clutched tight. Soft echo of Grace's small voice, Daddy. I nodded, and they settled on the love seat, watching. Kids, you deserve to hear the truth, I said gently, then turned back to Sarah and Alex. Exhibit C, text transcripts, Sarah's own words, when I'm with you, I feel alive, sent at 11:32 p.m., and, I can't wait to see you again, at 11:45 p.m. Sarah's mouth trembled. No. Let me finish. I reached to retrieve our wedding portrait from the mantel and placed it face down on the table, 2 halves of a life now severed. Exhibit D, bank statements, $15 charges every Tuesday and Thursday at Café Riviera, $30 charges at Cinemax. All to Alex. Alex flinched. Sarah's shoulders sagged. The hush in the room felt like a weight pressing against my ribs. Ethan's eyes filled with hurt, Grace nuzzled his arm. My chest tightened, but I forced my voice calm. You believed I'd never see. That I'd never wake from my coma. You prioritized your escape over our family. Sarah's tears fell freely. Michael, I thought you'd stay asleep. I felt so alone. Save it. I snapped, then exhaled. I built this life with you. Every Sunday pancake, every bedtime story, now tainted by your lies. Alex opened his mouth. I held up Exhibit E, a printout of Sarah's DatingLife profile conversation where Alex wrote, "I see a spark in you, Sarah, let's not waste it," and her reply, "You understand me better than I understand myself." "You two conspired under my roof," I said, voice cool. While Ethan and Grace slept in the next room. Ethan flinched, Grace's grip tightened. I turned to them, voice soft, "Kids, she's made terrible choices. But I love you." I gathered them both, pulling them close. Their small sobs pressed into my side. I whispered, "I'll protect you." Turning back to Sarah, I placed Exhibit F, our wedding ring, in its velvet box on the table. Its gold glinted in the lamp's glow. "This was your promise. I return it now." Sarah gasped, reaching for the ring. I didn't let her take it. "You don't deserve it." Alex sank to his knees, guilt in every line of his face. "Michael." "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered, voice cracked. "I'm not." I rose, careful with my broken body, and wheeled toward the door, Ethan and Grace in tow. Sarah's words caught in the hush as I passed the folder of evidence to Alex's lawyer, who watched stoically. My final glance at Sarah and Alex was a silent vow, they'd face every consequence. The door closed behind us with a decisive click. Their world remained behind the thin wall of betrayal, mine lay ahead, shattered but resolute. The watch on my wrist ticked, each second a promise that I would rebuild on truth's foundation. 3 weeks later, I sat in the quiet hallway of the family court building, the sterile air humming with anticipation. My grandfather's watch glinted on my wrist, its steady tick a reminder that time moved forward even when our lives felt fractured. Ethan and Grace held my hands, their small fingers warm against mine. Inside the mediation room, Sarah signed the final custody agreement, sole physical custody with me, supervised visitation for her, and a financial trust ensuring Ethan and Grace never went wanting. Alex's lawyer offered a curt nod as Sarah's trembling signature met the page. The pen's click echoed like a verdict. I watched her eyes, empty of defiance, full of regret, as she rose and slipped out, her visit pass torn in half beneath her hand. I exhaled, letting relief and sorrow wash over me in equal measure. Outside, the late afternoon sun spilled through the tall windows, warming my shoulders as I guided my children to the elevator. Ethan's gecko t-shirt brushed his arm, Grace's unicorn blanket poked from her backpack. Their trust in me felt sacred. Back home, the apartment felt both comforting and hollow. I approached the mantel where our family portrait once stood, Sarah, Ethan, Grace, and me beneath Central Park trees in autumn. The glass was dusty, a relic of happier times. I lifted the frame, breathing in the faint scent of maple leaves and children's laughter. Then, gently, I wiped the glass until it gleamed, and turned it face down on the mantel, our frozen smiles hidden but never forgotten. From my nightstand, I retrieved a small velvet box. Inside lay Sarah's wedding ring, a cool band etched with months of vows. I set it beside the hidden portrait. The ring's void felt like a promise unspooled, its circle now a symbol of what I'd reclaimed, my integrity, my children's trust, and my own sense of purpose. I clasped my grandfather's watch, its second hand marking each pulse of hope. In the kitchen, I emptied the dishwasher and stacked mugs, coffee remnants still cooling in the sink, and felt a quiet calm settle in my chest. The coffee's metallic tang once evoked heartbreak, now it reminded me that each dawn brought new clarity. That evening, after tucking Grace into bed with her unicorn and promising Ethan we'd review his soccer drills tomorrow, I sat at my laptop. I opened a new document titled, Fragments of Trust. My first entry laid out our story, how the late-night messages, the cafe rendezvous, and the cinema betrayals had fractured us, and how measured resolve, not rage, became our path forward. I added a photo of my grandfather's watch being wound, captioned, Time Demands Truth. I saved it as a draft. In the hush of our home, Ethan's gopher-themed alarm clock ticked on his nightstand, Grace's soft snores drifted from her crib. I closed my eyes and felt the watch's pulse beneath my wrist, a steady heartbeat anchoring me to the present. I had lost the woman I once loved, but I had secured my children's future and reclaimed my life. For me, that was the truest form of justice and of revenge.